everyone, and welcome back to another Sims 3 speed build. So today we're building a house in Aluna Islands on the lot called 3 Aluna Heights. There's currently 2 houses that James has built for the 2 lots on the right. And since there hasn't been one built for this particular spot, I decided to go ahead and build one myself. So this house is inspired by the ones that are next to it. It is a little bit different, but it does have some of the same features, so that way, you know, it does kind of look very similar. This house will run your Sims approximately 117,000 simoleons, and if you get it unfurnished, it'll be approximately 68,000 simoleons. And since this is on a cliff lot of a 27 by 20, this is pretty specific to this specific lot. It would be very difficult to move this to a different world or a different location just because of the fact that it is on a cliff. So, as you might be able to see, I am struggling a little bit with this basement area, mostly because it's been quite a while since I have done a cliff lot. I do know how to do it, but it took me a little while to refresh my memory on how to do them. And as you can see, I do eventually get it figured out. It took a little bit of trial and error because it just had been a while. So I kind of messed with it for a little bit, but it eventually all works out in the end. And we will start getting into the actual building portion of the house. Of course, doing cliff lots like this, I don't always really know what kind of shape to do, mostly because all I'm trying to do right now is get the foundation and the walls and everything and the balconies and stuff like that off the back of the house, at least where I want them, because you know it's not the most easiest. If you've ever built on a cliff, depending on how you do it, they're not too bad, but in this case I wanted the decks to come straight off from the back of the house. I didn't want to do the house and then have them have to do stairs or whatever to get to the deck. I wanted them to just walk out their back door and be right on it. And to do ones like that, they're just a little bit more tricky, but doing, as you can see, do get it figured out. And then I decided to go ahead, we should probably have at least a set of stairs. I wanted the stairs to be back one more square, but because of apparently the distance between or something or another, it wasn't quite right. So that's why I ended up putting them back to the original spot. Here is where I said the house is going to be slightly different from the others. I don't know. I just had it in my mind to do a house that was kind of styled like this. Where it has the roof that overhangs quite a bit in the front. That kind of adds a little bit to the porch. But as you can see, I end up making the little sections that kind of stick out on the side, which is one of the features that the other 2 houses happen to have. So I went ahead and added a few of those. There's 2 there in the front, and then there'll be, I believe there's going to be another one here in where the front porch, where I'm working on the roof right here, is pretty much going to be where another one is. So, and I apologize for it to be moving really, kind of faster than usual. Mostly because this build took me approximately 6 hours to do. And that was that was just the video itself. That didn't include some of the parts that I cut out, because it did take me a little while to figure out, like this roofing, for instance, was starting to drive me nuts. It was getting on my nerves. I knew what I wanted, but trying to actually get it to do what I wanted it to do in The Sims, which is not always the easiest thing, was part of it. But anyway, I had to speed it up more than 10 times, or is it 100? What is? I don't actually understand or really know how to say it. When you go into the video editor, of course, it's at 100% speed. That's its normal speed. And anything less than 100 means you slow it down, and anything higher than 100 you speed it up. Well, normally I have it between 700 and 900% sped up, and this one is at 1010 sped up. So just sped up just enough to get it a little less with screenshots, a little less than 30 minutes. I didn't really want it to be longer than 30 minutes because that's a long time for me to talk, and sometimes I don't know what to say. But this house actually has quite a few things going on, and quite a few things I guess we could probably talk about. One of the things that I'm doing right here is where I'm lowering it so the garage is underneath. Again, it's another feature that the houses beside it also have, is where the house is, or the garage is sunk in. And I think the first one he did is just a carport, and I didn't really like the second house, the one that sits right next to it, the one in the middle. It wasn't really my favorite, but I can't quite remember if that one even had a garage. I don't think it did. So I guess this is kind of based off of the first house. It has a carport underneath the house. I decided I didn't want to do a carport because I don't really like them, but I would actually put this one under the house instead, and I think it works pretty good. I like the way it turned out. So I, kind of had to mess a little bit with the terrain, which is kind of a pain in the rear. I did the old-fashioned way where you slowly, take the terrain down by degree. A lot of times what I just do is just kind of like stick it down so far, whatever, with the garage, and then I usually just level or not really level, but smooth out the terrain, which a lot of times will smooth it out just fine, but this time I decided to do it a little bit different, and because of that reason, I feel like I messed with it longer than I normally would. Normally I don't mess with these slopes, driveways quite this long, but as you can see, I was awfully picky. I was being way too picky about it, and I had to keep going back over. And then of course I decided later I wanted to have like a retaining wall because it just seems to make sense. So that's what those walls right there on the sides are. It's going to be a retaining wall, and you'll see those come together in a little bit. This house will have some area in the basement area that if you want to expand, you can. You'll probably have to move a few things around a little bit, but you will be able to expand. I don't think I flattened the ground though. You'll have to go in and flatten the ground, which you should be able to do for the most part without using any cheats. But if you do, just beware that this house uses a lot of cheats for the constrained floor elevation, and if you mess something up, it's probably going to mess the entire section, every floor above it. So be aware and understand how to use that cheat, and you'll be just fine. So I do have some tutorials, of course, on that cheat on my channel if you would like to check that out. Probably will be under the Sims 3 tutorial playlist is my guess. Other things about this house, like I said, is inspired by the two that are already on it. Is this paneling or this wood siding or whatever it is also used in the other houses. And one of the houses he had done was in a pastel green and a yellow, and I decided, well, we haven't used blue, and blue is my favorite color. So we went ahead and made this house a pastel blue. And let's see, I believe even the railing is also a railing that he used in the others. Like I said, the house is a little bit different from his. But there are a few things that I decided, of course, a lot of times in a section, a few areas of houses, I'm trying to think how to say it, like a little area of houses, a lot of times are built during the same time period, which means they're usually the same style or whatever style was, or kind of house or style was in style at that time. So this is basically like a house that would have been built around the same time as the other houses. So that's why it kind of looks very similar. So, now there are a few things I did with this house. There is one item that is store content. Sometimes, I should say most of the time, I don't use a major piece of the house isn't store content because I know not everybody has it. But in this house I did. I used the L-shaped stairs from the old mill. So if you do not have the old mill store content item, you will not get these stairs. And I don't know what the game's gonna do if you don't have those stairs. I don't know if they'll just be not there, or if they will replace. I can't imagine they'd replace it with another set of stairs because it may not fit. I really don't know. My guess is they're just not going to be there. your Sims just won't be able to use the upstairs, because in order to get to the upstairs of this house, you have to use the L-shaped stairs. Now you can get to the basement, of course, with no problems. Those just use normal stairs. But I haven't got to use those stairs. I hadn't built a house to use them yet, and I didn't really want to use constrained floor elevation cheat just to do L-shape. So I used those instead, and I was able to work them in, and I think they turned out really nice. They are usable. This house has been tested. You'll even see my little Sim standing on the sidewalk in the front of the house when I go to test. He's not out there quite yet because I hadn't done anything that I needed to test, but those stairs were definitely tested because I wasn't 100% certain. The door with the pillars right there in the front door, honestly, I wasn't sure if that was going to work either, but he went in the door just fine. So the front door can be used with those pillars or beams or whatever you want to call them that are right there in the front door. It is usable, so I thought that was a nice touch, adding that, and also gave support to the balcony area above it. And as you can see, here's where I'm doing the retaining wall. I think it turned out really nice. Adding these rocks and stuff here just kind of helps with landscaping, and it also, of course, because the ground is sloped right there, kind of gets rid of the ankle breaking hill and gap that's right there by the retaining wall. So I think it turned out pretty nice. I think I used the same brick foundation that he had used in the house next door. At least it looks pretty close, so that's why that is white, like to kind of match. And he put plants underneath the deck area or balcony, or would this be called a deck? I don't even know. Oh my goodness. He had done that, so I went ahead and did the same. He used a lot of palm trees, so there's a lot of palm trees in this house as well. Just so it can fit with the surrounding scenery. So that is pretty much, I think, it for the landscaping. Here's where I'm going to be working with the stairs. I decided I wanted this to kind of be like a balcony area, and I had to make a little bit of an extension here just so I could use it and put everything, put it in, and they'd be able to get to the upstairs because I wanted it to be a balcony. So it's a little bit different. Now, this did take me time to figure out. It did look like I did this awfully quick on camera, but that's because I didn't show you the entire planning process. So if I were to show you the entire planning process of what I do, we would have probably a 10-hour video. So a lot of the stuff that I do off camera just so to make it a little bit easier. I still try to show you how, the putting in the walls and everything else, but the actual planning process is not always there. Like, you'll see some of it because not all of it takes me a really long time, but some that do take a while, I do not show. Here's where I'm going to be putting in the stairs for the basement. I had almost forgotten those actually. But that black area right there, as you can see, it is a little humped up. If you just flatten that out, you can, extend the basement a little bit more, make it a little bit bigger. But I chose not to. I don't always like having big, gigantic houses, and this house was already getting to be big enough as it was. Now, this was kind of a pain in the rear to do because the L-shaped stairs were kind of a pain to put in. It didn't always like being put in certain areas and then trying to do different things with these stairs here, and then I wouldn't be able to put them stairs back even though they were already sitting there. It was just a huge thing, so there was a lot of undo, redo, just to make sure the stairs would just be there and try to figure out without moving them L-shaped stairs at all. So because like I said, that was a little bit of a problem. I'm not sure, honestly, I didn't actually test the bench. I put a bench right beside the L-shaped stairs. Now when you place those, they have an entire, I believe, a 3x3 or is it 4x4 grid? I'm not sure now that I think about it. I'm not sure the size of the grid, but it's an entire big like 4x4 square grid that those stairs take up. And not always are you able to use objects that are inside the grid. So I don't know if the bench that I put beside the staircase is actually usable. That I did not test. I guess the reason why I didn't test it was because it wasn't really something that the Sims had to be able to use. If they can't use it, I mean, it's not, you know, it's not like a life or death situation if they can't use the bench in the foyer. So I didn't bother testing it. But like I said, the stairs do work. Going down to the basement does work, so you can go through there. Even though I couldn't put a wall right there, you know, like I wanted to, you can use that stairs. I end up using a bookcase instead underneath the staircase. You'll see here in a little while to help block that gap, because I just felt it looked really bad. It was not very nice looking. I wanted a wall, but I couldn't. But a bookcase went in just fine, and it looks pretty good, and I didn't think it looked too bad. So I just put in some under the cabinet lighting, which can be a little bit of time consuming, a little bit of a pain in the rear, because they don't always place where you can use them. So you have to like place them first when you're zoomed out, and then you can go in like I am here and put them up where you want. But yeah, the game is just weird like that. So that's all taken care of. Now I'm just going ahead and cluttering up the kitchen like I like to do. I think the kitchen is quite cute. It's a little bit different because you have the refrigerator on one side and then you have your sink and stove in the other corner. It still would be considered a good flowing kitchen because it still makes the kitchen triangle. And if you don't know what a kitchen triangle is, that's all you have to do is basically draw a line from your sink to your stove, to your stove, to your fridge, or whatever, and then back. And if it makes a triangle without crossing any lines, or running into a wall, or running into a counter, it has to be a nice open triangle with nothing there, then you have a good working kitchen triangle. So I hope that explains a little bit of what that is. I do end up moving that table I just put in because even though the sim can get through and go to the door, I did test it. It felt too crowded. I had a feeling that if any sims were sitting in those chairs, then they wouldn't be able to get through. As long as the chairs were pushed up against the table, they could still get through, but I was pretty certain if a sim was sitting there, that wasn't going to happen. So I went ahead and moved it to the other side. I like it better on the other side anyway. At least it's not in front of the door and doesn't block anything. It just seems to make more sense there. This is the living room area. I can't remember what I did here. Can't remember this room. Just used the basic couches that I usually do, mostly because I want couches that look comfy, and most of the couches in the game do not look very comfortable at all. And I'm not saying those look the most comfortable, but they are more comfortable than a few other couches and chairs that are in the game. So that's why a lot of times I use those ones. And then I think there's a few others that I use once in a while just to try to change it up a little bit. So I use my favorite wallpaper. I actually really like this wallpaper. I don't like to use it where there's a whole lot of it because it's quite busy, and I don't like putting a lot on the walls that make them busy. But I don't know, I like that one because I don't know why I like that one. I just do. Nice pastel blue, I guess. It gives me a reason to use blue. This room ends up being like a green, I think. Yes, a little bit of a green. That is the couch or the bench that I'm not sure if it's going to work. The one right next to the staircase right there. That is store content. If you're not sure what kind of items to get for store content, if you'd like to have a few, I use that lounging couch all of the time because they don't have a good lounge couch like that, or whatever you want to call it, in any of the packs. They just don't have any good ones. That one is one that I think of that you would see in a foyer or in a hallway or at the end of your bed that you would just lounge in. It's not a couch that I view as being in a living room or an entertainment room, but more or less in a hallway, in your bedroom, or in a foyer is kind of how I look at that one. So that's a lot of times, that would be a store content item I use quite often. And then here is just kind of a small sitting area below. This would be, I don't know what you would really call it. It's in the basement area. It goes out to the balcony or the decks out back. And again, I apologize if it looks like my zoom like goes really, really close, like right up against the floor, right up against the wall or something like that. That's because my zoom with my mouse was still screwed up when I did this build. It has straightened itself out. Finally, it seems like it takes it forever to do that. I had adjusted my mouse and everything, and I had restarted my computer several times, restarted the game several times, and it still was not slowing it down. I couldn't zoom in, I couldn't zoom out, I had to use the keyboard. But I am so used to using the mouse that I would accidentally do it once in a while. So, and then all of a sudden, I'm building a house now, all of a sudden it's just fine. It zooms in just fine and zooms out just fine. So it finally got itself figured out. So hopefully that won't happen again. For some reason, it always does that. Whenever like the mouse component on my computer updates, it screws everything up. So, but here is a bathroom. Just a basic bathroom. I actually use a different shower than I normally do. I don't know what that one's from. I have no idea what pack that's from. I have no idea. I'm horrible with knowing packs, but as you can see, you will have to probably move a few things around to use that other space in the back there that's all blacked out. If you want to add, change it and stuff like that, that's fine. But you will have to move, like the bathroom. You have to do something with the bathroom, or this bedroom here will probably have to be changed something or another for you to get back there. But it is there if you want to make it a little bit bigger. This bedroom I think I designed for kind of a girl. I was going to use that mirror with the lights, but you can't change the color, so I said heck with it. If I can't change the color, then I'm probably not going to use it, because I don't know, gold frames are just not my cup of tea. I tend to change, like if you ever look at the bathrooms and stuff, I hardly ever use the mirror that has the gold trimmings because I can't change the gold. I'd rather have silver. Silver or copper is one I don't mind, or like that black color, whatever it is, I don't mind that one either. So I struggled a little bit with the stairs here. I prefer them to have a little bit of like a foundation or something underneath them, and that's just when I had discovered when I was in the garage that there was no wall down there. Like, you could be in the garage and you could crawl on your stomach and crawl under the house and then crawl down the cliff. There was no wall. I didn't realize I never did that. And I was going to fix it, and I fixed all of it except for 2 squares. The reason why I didn't do 2 squares because it required me to remove the staircase that is right there, and then it also required me to move a bunch of other things, and that also meant moving the L-shaped stairs, and yeah, I wasn't gonna do that. That was already a major pain as it was already, so I decided I was just gonna put some toolboxes right there to kind of block the hole. It's not, like I said, not ideal, and normally if I would have seen it sooner, it would have been fixed. But because of when I caught the holes and stuff down there, it was pretty much too late to even bother with trying to fix it. I did fix most of it, just not all of it, unfortunately. This is the upstairs of this house. It's just basically a little office, computer nook or whatever. I tend to do that because I don't know what to do with landings that are fairly on the larger side. And this is a landing that kind of is a little bit on the larger side. And I never know what to do with it. And I already usually have plenty of places for Sims to sit. So it's kind of a computer area. So I apologize if you hate having computers, because I know the Sims can be quite obsessive when it comes to playing video games. But just delete the computer, get yourself a few $1,000s, not a big deal. But I don't know, I really like this house. I really like the way it turned out. I think one of my favorite parts, though, I think probably my favorite of this house is probably the fact that it does have them L-shaped stairs in it, and it has that wraparound balcony right there, and the big windows and stuff like that right there in the front. I think that's what I like the most about it. The master bedroom is on the top floor. It has its own ensuite bath. So they pretty much get the whole upstairs to themselves. It's kind of like their own master suite, and they just throw their kids downstairs in the basement where they can't see or hear them ever. Probably, again, not the most ideal situation because, in my opinion, your kids shouldn't have access to back doors like that so far away from your parents. You know, they could just walk out on the deck back there and just walk down the stairs and down to the road and leave. And you would never know it because you were 2 floors above. Probably not the most ideal thing in real life, but in The Sims, who cares? It's not like you have any kidnappers who can come up your back porch there or your deck and sneak in and kidnap your children without you knowing. So it's a little bit more safe in The Sims. So that's why I do tend to do that a little bit more than usual. I mean, I personally think that the master bedroom should be either on the same floor as the kids' bedrooms or should be on the main floor in the kids' bedrooms upstairs. That way you can always, or at least hope anyway, that you would know if anything was going on and not 2 floors difference like it is in this house here. It's just a little bit unrealistic, at least in my opinion. I went ahead and decided to do a little bit of a lattice thing here because, you know, when they have these railings and pillars and stuff that are attached, have you ever noticed they don't actually have very many just basic railings that match them? Like the house I'm building now has a fancier railing with the pillars and stuff attached to it, but they don't have a staircase railing or a basic railing that actually matches. And I find that a little frustrating. So that's why I ended up putting that in. I did the little lattice above, and I kind of do the same thing with the house I'm building now, just so to try to help keep things to where it matches. I'm just doing a few more things here on the exterior that I hadn't done, and there's my little Sim standing on the sidewalk after testing. He's actually the same Sim that is in my series from the ground up, so if you watch that series, that would be him. That is Shadow standing there on the sidewalk. He is hopefully in the series going to be building some houses himself, so just doing the last bit things of exterior lighting, which means we're coming to the end of this video and the screenshots are coming up. The screenshots are not the greatest this time because going into that view, that camera view or whatever it is when you hit tab, the furniture kept disappearing and I wasn't able to get pictures and it was a mess, so I had to go back the old-fashioned way, and they're not the greatest pictures, but here are some screenshots. I hope you enjoyed this build and I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day. Bye.